Graves and cemeteries. 615. It is the duty of the living to properly maintain, keep clean, and adorn graves and cemeteries with trees. Trampling on graves and walking over them is disliked. Such behavior is a disrespect toward the dead. It is like trampling on their rights. Therefore, one should avoid doing so as much as possible. However, if nitrogen monoxide other path through the cemetery is available, some scholars state that there is nitrogen monoxide objection to walking between or over the graves and sitting near their edges, provided one recites the Quran, engages in dua, and prays. 616. No matter how old a cemetery is or how unnecessary it may seem, it must still be preserved as a cemetery. Selling such a cemetery or constructing any structure on it and transferring the Qur'an, bones and soil of the deceased to another cemetery is considered permissible. The rights of the dead are as sacred as those of the living, and perhaps even more so, upholding these rights is a duty that must be fulfilled in the name of humanity. How can a generation that fails to uphold the rights of its ancestors expect to have the right to protection from its own children and grandchildren? 617. It has been deemed permissible to relocate a cemetery that is at risk of flooding or has fallen into the hands of a foreign nation to another location. Every effort should be made to preserve such a cemetery as much as possible. 618. Once a deceased person has been placed in the grave and covered with earth, the grave must not be opened, nor may the body be removed from it. This is not permissible. The deceased has now been entrusted to Almighty Allah and is no longer in the care of the community. However, it may be permitted in cases of necessity. For example, if a body has been unlawfully taken, seized, or buried in clothes belonging to another, or if someone claims ownership of the burial site through the right of preemption, shafa, then exhuming the body is permissible. If it is not exhumed, the landowner may level the grave and plant whatever they wish on it. The owner of the clothing may simply claim the value of the clothing. Furthermore, if an item belonging to a member of the community falls into a grave, the earth of the grave may be excavated to retrieve it without touching the deceased. There is nitrogen monoxide objection to this, for that property has a value. The Prophet, PBUH, has forbidden people from destroying property. Leaving an item in the grave for nitrogen monoxide reason is nothing other than destroying property that has value. Based on this principle and wisdom, decorating graves and lighting candles or lanterns in graves is considered unwise and a form of wastefulness. However, a lamp may be lit in a cemetery to illuminate a path in the surrounding area. This is the value Islam places on property. This is the great wisdom of this divine religion, which demands that every act be rooted in consciousness and benefit. 619. It is disliked, makruh, to sleep near graves, to defile their surroundings, or to cut down or uproot living trees and plants. As long as they remain alive, the trees and plants in the cemetery possess a form of life. These glorify the exalted Allah through their creation. For this reason, it is hoped that the believers buried there will attain Allah's mercy. Our Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, realized that the occupants of 2 graves in the cemetery were suffering torment. He took a leafless, fresh date palm branch in his blessed hands, split it in 2, placed one part at the head of one grave and the other at the head of the other grave, and said, "Maybe by the time these dry up, the torment being endured by the owners of these graves will be alleviated." They sighed. This is why, in some places, IT has become accustomed to place myrcen tree branches on top of graves. However, the main practice in this regard is to plant living trees. As the late Ain, who explained Imam Bukhari's book of Hadith, stated, placing only fresh branches, fragrant flowers, and greenery on graves is of no consequence. The sunnah is to plant trees. The health benefits of trees are also well known. In fact, a few fresh flowers such as roses or basil can also be placed on graves. However, wastefulness in this matter spending a lot of money on temporary flowers that will wilt and disappear cannot be considered appropriate, especially if it is done to imitate other nations. This is absolutely unacceptable. 620. It is recommended for men to visit graves once a week, especially on Fridays and Saturdays. The graves of righteous people are visited for blessings. Even if they are located far away, it is recommended to endure the journey. Older women may also visit the graves to take a lesson or to seek blessings. There is nitrogen monoxide objection to this. Visits are not appropriate if there is a fear of fitna. The visitor should stand facing the Qibla or turning toward the deceased face while praying and say the following: Peace be upon you, O inhabitants of the abode of the believers. We too will join you, inshallah. I ask Almighty Allah for well-being, safety from all sorrows, for us and for you. The Prophet PBU8 will give this greeting when visiting the Baqi Cemetery in Medina. 621. According to the preferred opinion, there is no disapproval in one who will recite the Quran sitting by the grave. Sitting down to recite Surah Yasin is also greatly rewarded. For this reason, it has been narrated from Imam Ali and Hazrat Anas, may Allah be pleased with them both, that Allah the Exalted will grant ease to our departed, and that the reader will be rewarded as many times as there are departed souls. 622. According to Imam Abu Yusuf, building structures, such as rooms or domes over graves and inscribing writings on them is strictly disliked. Makruh Tarman. However, in a cemetery that has been endowed for the benefit of all, Muslims or set aside for burial, and is not owned by any individual, it is forbidden to build structures over graves that prevent others from benefiting from them. However, to prevent the graves of scholars, virtuous people, and those in high positions from being lost, there is nitrogen monoxide objection to placing a stone near them and inscribing their names. There are also those who see no harm in erecting a stone at the head of the graves of other deceased individuals and inscribing their names so that their graves may not be lost and they may be protected from disgrace. Under no circumstances should verses from the Quran be inscribed on these stones, as they may break or crumble over time. According to the Maliki school, inscribing the Quran on a grave is forbidden. Writing the name of the deceased and the date of death is disliked. According to the Shafis, writing any kind of text on these is disliked. However, it is recommended to write the name of a scholar or a righteous person and a quality that identifies them. According to the Hanbalis, writing is disliked without any exception. 623. It is disliked to bury a person in a specific place within the house where they died, because such an act is reserved exclusively for the prophets. Building underground vaults and placing the dead therein in coffins has been considered disliked due to many risks. These places are called Thusika. 624. Unless the body of a deceased person has completely decomposed and nitrogen monoxide bones remain, his grave may not be excavated to bury another person in its place. However, if nitrogen monoxide other place can be found, the dead person's bones are collected and a barrier made of earth or brick is placed between them and the one to be buried there. 625. If a deceased person has been buried facing away from the Qibla by mistake, the grave should not be exhumed for this reason. This is because it is a sunnah to lay the deceased on their right side so that they face the Qibla. Since this practice was not followed, it is not appropriate to exhume the grave. 626. Unless there is an absolute necessity, it is not permissible to place multiple bodies in a single grave. However, in cases of necessity, they may be placed together. Soil is filled in between them to serve as a barrier, curtain. The martyrs of Uhud were buried in this manner. Kabir bin Abdullah, may Allah be pleased with him, Said, the first person to be martyred in the battle of Uhud was my father. I could not bring myself to leave him in a grave with another martyr, Amr ibn al-Juma. 6 months later, I exhumed the grave. I found my father, except for his ear, in a state as fresh as the day I buried him, and I removed him and buried him alone in another grave. 627. The graves of non-Muslims residing in Islamic land must not be desecrated. For just as it is forbidden to cause the harassment in life, it is also forbidden to desecrate their graves, break their bones, or level their burial sites after their death. A covenant has been made with them, and this covenant must be honored under all circumstances. However, in a newly conquered area, if necessary, there is nitrogen monoxide objection to exhuming the graves of non-Muslims, removing their bones, and allocating their spaces for another purpose.